Autumn is harvest time, and of course, we can't use all the vegetables we harvest right away, in example eat them. The same applies if we have bought too much of something, have overestimated the amount, but we can preserve these vegetables. I'll show you exactly how to do that right now. You might have to smile a little bit because I'm so fuzzy about cleaning the countertop here. But this is really very important for what I'm about to show you. One way to preserve vegetables for months, even up to a year, is to ferment them. There are different ways to do this. I'm going to show you the brine fermentation right now. This brine technique is really quite easy to use and is a great way to get started fermenting. The great thing is that here the vegetables retain their valuable ingredients, provide a healthy intestinal flora, and it can be digested quite excellent and also strengthens our immune system. By the way, this is actually probably the oldest form of vegetable preservation. Most people know fermenting in connection with the production of sauerkraut, cheese, wine, or from brewing beer. For our brine technique, you really don't need too much things. Canning jars with the usual caps and rubber rings are enough. Then so-called weighted kits, which are also available in different forms, for example made of glass. Mine are made of a special clay. These ensure afterwards that the vegetables remain under the brine. Of course, we need salt. And if you want to ferment more often, a cabbage masher is not bad. Now water, preferable a high quality. I always use water that I have filtered beforehand. And now, of course, the already washed vegetables. You can really use just about anything here. Be daring in your trial and error. For vegetarian or vegan living people should be said here, by the way, that the so important B12 vitamin, which is otherwise only absorbed through animal foods, is also produced during fermentation through the fermentation process. Isn't that fantastic? When we ferment, we could also say that we lactic acidify the vegetables, but that has absolutely nothing to do with milk. You should already like the sour taste a bit, or maybe just give it a chance for a while. The taste changes in the course of a lifetime, and sometimes you just don't know something yet. Now it's a matter of first cutting up the vegetables into not so small pieces. I'll start with a Hokkaido pumpkin, which actually demands quite a bit of physical strength from me here. You can also pickle some vegetables as a whole, such as smaller cucumbers or carrots. In this case, you only need sufficiently large jars or other containers such as clay jars, which ensure that the vegetables are always covered with brine and thus no longer draw oxygen. It's important that you still use fresh, preferable biodynamic vegetables. Even slightly wilted vegetables would probably spoil you later in the jar. Now, I've almost won my little battle with the pumpkin. To keep the vegetable pieces in the jar as close together as possible, I compact them every now and then by applying gentle pressure with a wooden measure. You can also press the vegetables into the jar with a clenched fist. As for combining the vegetables, it's often recommended to jar vegetables that are similar in substance together. This is mainly because they will then have the same, or at least a similar consistency at almost the same time. Therefore, soft vegetables, which include, for example, peppers, tomatoes, and zucchini, fit together quite well. With the harder varieties, it would then possibly be a mix of beet and carrot. To be honest, I still always mix the harder with the softer, juicier vegetables. Actually, it depends mainly on whether you mind if, for example, the zucchini pieces are a little softer or not. Overall, I can only encourage you to try your own creations and make your own experiences here. Be imaginative there. Add spices, in whole and still fresh, or as I do here, my dried mixture of Italian herbs. There are really no limits here. You can add raisins, date or fig pieces, anise, cardamom, whatever. Then just don't take too much at the beginning, so take it rather slowly. The important thing is that you like to eat what you add. And again, when infesting the jars, press everything together well and gently at the same time, so that there are as few gaps as possible between the vegetable pieces afterwards. Now we come to the brine. In any case, please use a salt without any additives. I always take primary rock salt or Himalayan salt. I measure here 24 grams, which I will dissolve immediately in 1 liter of water. With this quantity ratio, I have achieved good results so far. The salt then simply mix well with the water. To cover the vegetables, I got myself suitable large leaves of nasturtium from the garden. Many take here also cabbage leaves. As I said, you can also add fresh garden herbs to the jars beforehand. Now, I carefully pour the brine over the vegetables, which I fix in the jar with a cabbage measure so that they don't rise to the top. I pour enough brine so that there's still enough room for the weighted kits at the top. So it's better to pour in a little less at first, and then maybe add a little more later. The clay discs now keep the fermentation material under water and thus away from oxygen. Once again, gently press everything down and close the jar. Later, when the fermentation process begins and oxygen rises to the top, the air pressure will lift the lid with a rubber ring a little, and the air can escape without cracking the jar. After that, it's necessary to exercise patience and first leave the jars at room temperature in a quiet place and cover them with a cloth. The fermentation can begin. Bubbles will form, much like in a glass of champagne, bubbling to the top where they will escape. Gradually, the salt water becomes cloudier, which is a good sign. Now our vegetables can calmly become a so-called probiotic food. Perhaps you are now asking yourselves, when is the vegetable actually ready, an example suitable for consumption? This is not easy to answer. It's best if you simply try it after some time. Here, the individual taste decides above all. I usually leave the jars between 7 and 12 days at room temperature. Sometimes I add a little brine here and there, but that happens rather rarely. If the vegetables taste pleasantly sour and also smell, then it comes with me in the refrigerator, where the low temperatures stop the fermentation process then. There it's actually mostly durable up to a half a year or more, depending on the type of vegetable, of course different. If something should be out of order, you can smell it even before you have to taste it when you open the jar. Well, if it's all okay, you can use the vegetables as a side dish. You can use some of the vegetables to enrich salads, and others you can eat up briefly and very gently. In any case, I wish you much joy in the adventure of fermenting.